Guys, I don't think we're going to get the snakes out today. It's a bit on the wintry side. Yeah, no snakes out today. Hi, my name's Richard, aka Reptile Rich. I want to invite you into the world of living with exotic animals as pets, taking you on a journey to inspire the conservation and preservation of these amazing creatures and their habitat around the world. What's happening, all you cool snakes and neonates? How are you doing today? I hope you're all keeping well. Today we are going to talk royal pythons or ball pythons. To be honest with you, they're called royal pythons in the UK, ball pythons in America. It makes more sense to call them ball pythons because they get that name from their defense mechanism. When they feel threatened, they curl up into a little ball with their head at the center of the ball, protecting their head. But if you hear me call them royal pythons, it's because I'm from the UK, so that's what we call them over here, and that's what we've called them for decades. So, royal pythons. Awesome little snakes. Cool little snakes. Probably the most widely distributed snake, I would say, and the most widely kept snake around the world, simply because of their size. They are really easy to house because they don't get very big. Females get to about 4 foot, rarely ever exceeding that, and you get about 3 foot out of a male. So they are a very nicely sized python. And of course, as always, the best thing about pythons is they have that nice chunky head. They have a nice chunky body as well. They have those fat rolls. Of course, you don't want too much fat rolls. I've said before, it's better to have an underweight snake than it is an overweight snake. So watch the weight of your python and the size of your python. Hello, pretty boy. As you can see, they're a little bit head shy. And that is one of my reasons that I think they aren't always fantastic for the pure novice, is that they can be quite shy. This can leave them in a bit of nervous disposition. They can be a little bit picky eaters, and there are a few things that you can get wrong when keeping royal pythons, unlike, say, corn snakes, where they're pretty much bomb-proof. Sorry, did I blow in your face? With that being said, let's go in. I'm going to give you guys a little sort of how to care for and keep these amazing little snakes. If you guys like this kind of thing, let me know in the comments and I will make more of them. I'll do boas, I'll do Burmese pythons, I'll do Dumerils boas, I'll do geckos, I'll do whatever you guys ask. Hi boys! So, the enclosure. This is just a quick enclosure I've thrown together to show you guys. I'm going to bring you over in a minute. So basics are, you want your hot end or basking spot to be 30 to 33. Your cold end, if memory serves me right, is about 28. Any quick Google search will tell you. Confirm what I'm saying, but I'm pretty sure off my memory, 30 to 33 is what you want the basking spot to be at. Now, royals can be a little bit stupid. They will lie on a basking spot and burn themselves. They will just lay on it and lay on it and lay on it and then, oh, this is nice and comfy. And then there'll be smoke rising from their butts and they'll be like, this is still comfy. And yeah, they'll burn themselves. So what I like to do sometimes, if I'm using a tub or a rub like this setup here, I will put a layer of perspex underneath, in between the heat mat and the tub, and it just creates a little bit of extra space. Now when they're in a tub like this, I like their heat to be around the 30s rather than the 33 for their basking spot. I can feel you doing that, Luna. You're naughties. So yeah, you want the basking spot around about 30 in these tubs, just simply so they don't burn their bellies. Now snakes can't thermoregulate. They can't heat up and they can't cool down. So you want that temperature just right. Just throwing in a heat mat or a ceramic heat bulb and letting them do their thing will not work. Now remember, your thermostat measures the temperature at the point of the thermostat. It doesn't mean that that's what the temperature is throughout the viv, it's just at the very point of the probe That's what the temperature is. I like to drill a hole in my tub for the thermostat. I pop it through that hole there, and I have it sitting about there on the heat mat. If you're going to tape your probe down, make sure you use a strong tape and make sure it is fully down. I have seen snakes have to be put down because they have gotten wrapped up in the tape that people have used in their vivariums. So be very careful if you are going to use tape in the vivarium. Make sure every single edge is flat down and there is no way the snake can get into it, because smaller snakes, like I say, I have seen them have to be put down. Now, you can have it as extravagant or as basic as you like. And something as small as this, for a youngster, a simple hide and a water dish will do. And will do very well. You don't necessarily need to soak. They're not a terribly aquatic creature, so soaking isn't a priority for them. When you move them up to bigger tubs, they do like to climb on occasion, so giving them a shelf or a branch or something to climb on and muck about on is always a good idea. Now, I like to step the houses, the sizes of my vivariums up. Whenever I'm stepping the vivariums up, I always basically judge the length of the snake to the length of the vivarium or the tub that I'm keeping them in. So as the snake grows, the size of the tub grows with it. So I start them off small. You'll usually get them, when the breeders have them, they're usually in nothing more than a 9-litre tub. So when you're housing a young animal, something as large as an 18-litre will do it for quite a while. They aren't fond of wide open spaces. They don't like to feel exposed into the elements and vulnerable. They like to be hidden. They like to go from their hide to their water, and they're mostly nocturnal anyway. So you're probably not going to see a heck of a lot of the animal. So use your common sense. Of course you don't want to house a full-grown adult in a tiny wee tub, but at the same time you don't want to put a little worm in a great big 4-foot vivarium and have the poor little thing freaking out as well. You can fill that 4-foot vivarium with nothing but hides and stuff, but you're never going to find it again after that. The substrate. This is the point where I see the most error in new keepers. They get snakes from shops that aren't necessarily reptile shops like Pets at Home, Petco or whatever, that the advice they hand out isn't exactly spot on, and they will tell them or recommend to use aspen. Never use aspen for royal pythons. People think royal pythons, they come from Africa, desert, sand, cheetahs, but that's not the case. It is humid, and they actually come from central western Africa, where they come from grasslands and woodlands and all that kind of stuff. So they do need humidity. Aspen will dry the air out and dry the snake out. You will have nothing but shedding problems, retained eye caps. I've even seen it dry out the snake's eye caps, and their eye caps like dimple and crinkle and all that kind of stuff. So do not use aspen for royal pythons. What you'll see here that I use, I pretty much use this mixture for all my animals, is a cocoa bedding and cocoa bark mix, and then I throw some sphagnum moss in it. Now this, usually the cocoa bark adds volume, so you're not using as much of the cocoa bedding, it sort of spreads out. It's also better for burrowing species, and that and the moss and all that kind of stuff all mixed in together, they hold humidity really well. If you spray aspen, it will get moldy as well. So this mix here with all the cocoa stuff, it holds humidity and holds moisture in really well, and it takes spraying really well too once it dries out, because it will dry out. When I'm spraying my snakes, I do it like once a week. Depends on your climate, the type of heating you have in your house, where you are in the world. I find where I am, here in Scotland, I spray my snakes once a week, and that does them. I'll maybe give them 2 sprays, a spray twice a week if they're in shed, just to ensure that they're getting the extra moisture to shed that skin off. But really, as long as you get that substrate down, your shedding should be perfect. If you're having problems shedding, you need to look at the substrate, the heat and the humidity. So you've just got your brand new royal python home. I always give my animals about 24 hours to settle down, to calm down and to get used to their surroundings. Some people give them a week. I judge it off the individual. To be honest with you, I've taken animals out as little as 7 hours after they've come home, because I got so excited, and the animals done really well. I've handled animals immediately out the bag as soon as they've come home, and they've been fantastic. But if the animal just seems a little bit more timid, a little bit more pulling its head back and a bit more nervous, just give it that wee bit of extra time. But I have very rarely met an animal that needs more than 24 hours to settle down, because you're just putting it in a plain box and they're going to get pretty familiar with that plain box pretty quickly, because it's quite boring in there, you know what I mean? You're handsome. And Luna here, she is in shed right now. As you can see, her eyes are opaque, her skin is blue. If you see your snake going like this, do not panic, this is natural. Remember, the snake is blind like this, so do not handle them. Let them just chill out, get through the shedding cycle. Once it's shed, then you'll feed it. The chances are they won't feed while they're in shed, so just leave them alone. So you've got your substrate, you've got your hide in there, your water bowl. You want to change your water at least once a week. Every Wednesday is my water day, and I go through and change all the waters after they've been fed on a Monday. And speaking of feeding, we're going from that to feeding. There's another bit of sort of poor advice I see going around: to feed your animals in a separate tub. Now, I know some people have got away with this for years and years and never had a problem. In all honesty, it's not needed and not necessary, in my opinion. I really don't want to start arguments. I don't want to argue with anyone. If you feel differently, that's totally fine by you. But I'll tell you why I feel this way. My first snake, as you can see here, was a royal python, and I was told to feed them in separate tanks. I was also told to use aspirin too. So I'm telling you guys the mistakes I've made and what I've learned from them. Now, I quickly realised going up to bigger snakes, it wasn't going to be possible to start feeding them in separate tubs. When you got a 15-foot Burmese python, that's in feeding mode. It's not going to be fun when there's a smell of rat in the air and you're trying to move it around. Some snakes have really high feeding responses. Some individuals have really high feeding responses as well. Like your black-headed pythons, Burmese pythons, retics, all that kind of stuff have a really good feeding response. And my little Malfoy here has an amazing feeding response too. So feeding in a separate tub is pointless. The only thing you're going to do is risk regurging the snake, so the snake will spew the rat up. When they feel threatened in the wild or when they're moved too soon after eating, they will regurgitate that mouse up and enable them to get away quicker. Or you can, like I say, risk getting bitten yourself. Now, you don't want bitten and the snake doesn't want to bite you. The snake can break teeth off in your skin and you don't want to get bitten. As much as it's painless, it's still something you don't want to happen. So feeding in a separate tub is really just risking extra stresses. I feed all my animals, with Malfoy here, in their own tubs. You're not separating feeding day. All I do is I don't handle on feeding day and I don't handle for 2 days after feeding day. And then everything's perfectly fine. Everything is spot on after that. If you have to and you feel really scared about the snake and you're not confident about separating feeding mode and... Sorry son, I just slapped you in the face. If you're not confident about separating feeding mode and thinking mode, then maybe for a wee bit, then maybe feed in a separate tub, but in all honesty, there is no need for it. Now, going up in the viv, lighting. Lighting is not necessarily necessary. They are nocturnal, but that's not to say they wouldn't benefit from it. I have not given my snakes UV for years, and then in recent years started giving them UV lights in their vivariums, and they physically seek out and bask under the UV lighting. Even when the UV isn't close to the heat mat, they will still go under the UV and bask under the UV. So they obviously get vitamins that they've missed, like vitamin D and stuff like that, and they obviously want it because they will seek it out and use it. What are you saying, beautiful boy? So they don't need lighting, but they can benefit from it. Of course, you can't give them lighting in a rub, but if you're moving them up into their big vivarium and it's a pet, I would definitely recommend putting UV in, especially if you can afford to and you want to give your pet the best life possible. UV is always a bonus. So that is my basic care on royal pythons. I hope it's short enough that you guys didn't lose interest. I know I can prattle on a bit sometimes. I'm trying to make my videos a little bit shorter, a little bit more entertaining for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff.